If the road were easy, everyone would do it. We don't shy away from challenges. We dive in. And now, live from an undisclosed location in FEMA Region 10, it's your host, Joshua Michael.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Non-Compliant America. Hope you're enjoying this wonderful sunny day. Not sure how long it's going to be there, but let's jump right into it. Let's go. All right, so first and foremost, front and center, in case you've been living under a rock, right now there is a massive controversy going on with RFK Jr. And Candace Owens exposing him. She dropped a video last night. Very, very, very interesting, but it talks about, and it all has everything to do with Israel, and it comes, I don't know if you've been following with what Candace has been doing on exposing the Israeli state, on how it's basically tackled and conquered and is completely strong-arming the Republican Party. There's a lot of things about that and how that all kind of ties in together, but the interesting thing is how RFK has shifted over these past couple months his absolute position on Israel. And so Candace does this big report. I'm going to play a part of it because I think it's very enlightening. It's very important. And just like everything, we always question everything. If you feel so confident about your position, you should have no problem defending it. And the minute that you can't defend it and or you get defensive or start doing other types of tactics against the individual that you're trying to have a debate with, well, then you lose. And it almost expresses the point. So we should be able to criticize anything and everything in our space, in our world. And the minute that something is off limits, it's similar to the Democrats and the Republican Party, the Democrats with talking about Black Lives Matter or Antifa or transgenderism or whatever. We all know how that plays out and how that works. When you try to have a debate, they result to illogical thinking. They get emotional, they get defensive, everything else. We're seeing something very similar in regards to the debate talking about Israel, which is interesting, super interesting. How all the members of Congress are dual citizenships, not all of them, most of them. I would say the large majority of them have dual citizenship with Israel. Most of the Biden administration, the Obama administration, they all have dual citizenship. So why is it such a sensitive topic? Why is it something that you can't talk about? And now all this stuff is blowing up with Candace Owens on her exposing it. She gives the best analysis and best report. I don't want to regurgitate what she is going to be saying, but I want to play a key part of this report that she just posted last night in talking about all the flack she's getting and everything else. And as you know, her previous debate and previous public disagreement with Ben Shapiro had to do with her being on Daily Wire and criticizing Israel. And suddenly there's this big feud going on with them and everything else. Again, it's the forbidden fruit. You can't touch it. But again, this comes back down to the purpose of Doge and what we want for the Trump administration is to be full transparency. We want full transparency on everything, no stone unturned. We have to go down this rabbit hole together to really grasp what's going on. As you know, if you got cancer and you don't get all the cancer, that cancer is going to grow back and it's going to come back. So we have to eradicate all of this stuff. And that also involves these very hard conversations. And if the Republicans and the talking heads and the mainstream media groups and all this stuff are going to say, we're going to keep that off limits, well, then essentially we're just paving a path to get back into the exact same position that we were in for the past 4 years with the Biden administration. And we saw how bad that was. We saw how corrupt things can get. But we have to root out the corruption. And with that, there's going to be some downfalls in the stock market. There's going to be some fluctuations. There's going to be financial impacts on everything. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine, special forces guy, he's been out of the military as a contractor for quite some time. He would travel to various different countries as a contractor and do training courses and things like that with them. His contract has all been null and void due to the USAID funding and the erratic spending that has been going on in these various different countries. He was a part of that. And he understands it. So he's like, okay, cool. Like, this is a good thing. Even though it was paying my bills, even though it was feeding my family, I understand it's a necessary suffering that we have to go through. And isn't that what all this is about? Do you really think that you're going to be able to get all the great things and great amenities and ease of life? We got to get out of the ease of life mindset. Life is not easy. And if it's too easy, if your life is too easy and too calm and too stable and there's no disruption at all, there's a difference between properly being able to handle disruption versus having none. That just simply means you are one of those people that are sticking your head in the sand and you're not doing enough. And if you got kids, you got to understand the energy that you put in today is the benefit for what they're going to reap tomorrow. Which is why my parents, I believe, had such a great life because of their parents, and their parents before that set a ginormous pathway of prosperity and ease of life and laissez-faire, hippie movement, all this stuff, where they didn't care about any of the politics and they didn't care about any of that stuff. And they left a wide open gap from stopping to pass the torch of responsibility that we all have as citizens. They stopped doing that through generations. And so now we are the ones that are starting to have to pick up the slack. And now we're fighting this gigantic monster, which is very fragile, by the way. This thing that we're fighting is very fragile. It's very sophisticated, and it's got all the time in the world. So we're fighting against that. But exposing it is the key. And I was on Rob Taylor's show last night trying to talk about that and talk about how the Overton window is shifted. And we talk about it all the time on the show, but the court of public opinion, the propaganda, both good propaganda, bad propaganda, that is the battle being fought right now. Getting in the weeds and going toe-to-toe with the protesters on the street, which are paid to be there. They don't really give a crap about anything that you say. You're never going to change their mind. You're going to have these little clickbait victories that you're going to post online. And yes, it is important. It is important to expose the hypocrisy. But I believe at this point, people really understand what's going on. The average person knows what's happening in the world. They know the hypocrisy. They know that the media lies. They know the elections were stolen. They know the COVID vax is bad for them. They know that masks didn't work. The 6-foot rule was bullcrap. It was a complete power grab by these NGOs, BlackRock groups, and the government to exercise its power. The same thing that they did during 9/11. The same thing that they've done for years. But it's all now getting exposed. Excuse me, thanks to people like Ian Carroll, does a phenomenal job dissecting and getting into the weeds of these things. We played some of his reports in the past, but if you are not following him on X, he's breaking stuff all the time, and he's just some regular guy that lives in Idaho. Just a regular guy. So we have to stop peddling these unspoken agreements. And let's just all agree and understand that we know we're in a bad spot. If your house is burning down and we put water on it, you're going to have damage to the house. The house is going to have to get repaired. We're going to have to put in some sweat equity to rebuild that thing and put it back together because it's been destroyed. It's been dismantled. Our medical system has been destroyed, dismantled. The Social Security is absolutely out of control. The government spending and the oversight and just the sheer will of a citizen, we've been so complacent on what we're willing to accept. And I have to say all the time, you have to read the Constitution. Read the Constitution in its core for what it is. Just understand, if we all started abiding as a public by the Constitution, these agencies will try to coerce us and create more fear and fine us, tax us, and do all of these things to try to get us to sit back down. But if the entire public is like, no, we're not going to do that, just like this Measure 114 thing, this is what they were talking about last night, then they won't have an enforcement branch. The government breeds and lives off of fear. Through their fear tactics, through propaganda, whether they're going to doing these selective raids on these reporters and journalists and podcasters and the swatting campaigns that have been going on, that's all to induce fear. That's why Osama bin Laden was such a great boogeyman, because we don't know anything about the Muslim community and the populations and these radical, crazy terrorists. Oh, God, it's scary. Oh, God. He's got a towel around his head. I don't know. He might be a terrorist. Because we don't know, because we've been asleep for so long, that automatically we're assuming that this is the perfect boogeyman. And it was for a very long time. It was very effective. I don't know if it was like 11 trillions of dollars spent on the Afghanistan war. And how'd that work out for us? Are they safer? Are they better? We should just get out of there. Let's put all that money. Imagine if we put $1 trillion just into our road systems. The roads are breaking down. Our infrastructure is breaking down. There's homeless people everywhere around here. And all over these major cities. And they're getting millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars every year to try to combat the problem. But nothing ever seems to be going forward. It's because we're all waiting for something to happen, and we're sitting on the sidelines waiting to be told what we should be doing. We all have committee meetings. We all have commissioners. We all have city council meetings. We all have a voice. We all have a cell phone now. We can file our own reports. We can do our own investigations. We can expose our own things, build our own foundations on X. And even if you get 5 views, that's still moving things forward. That's how we get engaged now, doing real change. And right now, we're in the battle space of consciousness. We're in the fourth turning. We're turning heads away from the darkness, away from the magic, away from the spells. And the reality is we needed the Biden administration. We needed that failure after failure after failure after failure, and the complete inversion of reality for a lot of you guys to snap out of this dreamlike state. I call it suspended disbelief because a lot of people are watching Netflix and Paramount and all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I have my guilty pleasures too. But also being able to recognize the simulation that it creates and the concept in your head. You feel like the superhero when you're in and watching the movie. You feel like you've done this stuff. That's why there's movies that are guiding towards anti-government, taking over the government, the good and the justice. Justice always prevails in these movies because it makes you feel good. But it's also doing something in your head to also make you feel like you were there. You did it. You did that action. Meanwhile, you're just sitting on the couch watching popcorn. You kind of see what I'm talking about? See what I'm talking about? And this can happen everywhere. It doesn't have to be political. It can just simply be the way that you live. And we all have to start choosing to live like Americans. I'm Joshua Michael. You listen to Non-Compliant America. We will get into that Candace Owens report on the other side. We'll be right back. All right, guys, this is me. Thanks for listening to my podcast. Make sure to be following everything. But what I'm doing, I need your help right now. I am looking for some advertisers that are interested in sponsoring this show and interested in taking it to the next level. I need sponsorships. This is going to be the slot that you guys are going to be able to have. If you know anybody, businesses, anybody that's looking to help sponsor this show to take it to another level, we're trying to do video, we're trying to do all these things, this will be the spot to do it. Reach out to me, jm@noncompliantamerica.com.
Welcome to Non-Compliant America, where we rip the veil off the lies they feed you daily. This ain't your mainstream snooze fest. It's raw, uncut truth, straight from the shadows, guided by the divine hand of God himself. We're exposing the elites, the cover-ups, and the stuff they don't want you to know. Buckle up, because the deep state's shaking in their boots, and we're just getting started. You ready to see the world for what it really is?
All right, welcome back, folks. Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America. Make sure to follow me on X. We're breaking a lot of stories and trying to cut through the media narratives going on. I know a lot of you already do, and I appreciate that. Like and subscribe on X. You can also go to noncompliantamerica.com and check out all our latest podcasts with what we're talking about and everything else. Don't I sound better today? Don't I sound more charged, more myself, more alike, more everything else? Well, that's because I am. That's because I've absolutely realized and I've absolutely conquered these demons and deceptors and liars and manipulators and all these people that we're surrounded by every single day. They are always trying to get you. They're always trying to take your energy. They're always trying to suck you dry and just completely destroy the uniqueness and the spark that we all have in the world. And I am glad to say, thanks to God Almighty, God himself has helped me get through this path and realize that the most fundamental thing is to always be yourself. And the most fundamental thing in this world is to not let people take your energy. Now, I have a tendency, because I'm an empath, a hypersensitive empath. I always want to help people. I'm always putting myself out there. Hey, because I see it, because I've gone through so much stuff in my life. I've been through so many different situations and have conquered those at different times and, all of these things. So it's really easy for somebody who's been through a lot, who understands the path, who understands, the darkness and the trails and just opening doors and being able to get through and sift through all that stuff. It's very, very important to be able to do that. Now, however, that was my path. Now, I'm always willing, and I still am, and I'm always willing to help people. I love talking about life. I love talking about philosophical things. I love talking about sociological things, the differences between men and women, why men act this way, why they're not being heard and talked about, and just not quite getting into their stride in their life. And that's a very difficult thing to do. And it's a very lonely thing to do, because a lot of people aren't going to understand you, especially around here. Women don't like somebody who's too outspoken. They want a safety simp. A lot of women like simps around here. They want a guy that's just going to sit down, shut up, and just, I don't care. I don't care about anything. Where's my beer? And not all women, by all means, I'm just saying, in my experience and everything else, that's what they want. They don't want to be challenged. There's this hyper-focused feminization, indoctrination around Oregon, and just, you're a boss babe. You don't need a man. You don't need this. Blah, blah, blah. And like in their gut, they're like, I kind of do. I kind of want that. But then their friends are very negative and pull them down and try to get them back to being whatever. It's like, okay, cool. You don't want to do that? That's fine. This is who I am. I'm not going to change for you. You don't need to change for people. Be yourself. Find your passion. If you're into Legos and you're like to play chess and, go on walks around a pond and go fishing or whatever you like to do, Do that. Live in that. And resonate with the people that validate that part of you, that validate the part that you are. Don't meet people and go try to find people and adapt to their energy, because they're just going to take your energy. And so part of the reason why I'm back, part of the reason why I was gone for a little while is everything else is because I had to go through all of that journey. I was in a very, very bad situation with a very nasty person who was a woman, and it was just soul-sucking, completely just soul-sucking. And I'm a strong person. I'm very strong-willed. I like my life. I like my things in my life. She even asked me if I was on drugs once. One night, she's like, "What drugs are you doing? Why are you so happy all the time? Why are you always smiling and this and that?" Is because you find your energy, you find your peace, you reward and focus on all the little wins every single day. There's tons of wins. First one, when you wake up, is the fact that you woke up. That's a freaking great win. You didn't die in your sleep. Something didn't happen to you last night. You got blessed by another day. That's a first win, and that's a phenomenal win, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. There's no guarantees for tomorrow. So that's a good win. You make some good coffee in the morning. That's an awesome win. Your son or your daughter, your child on their way to school. "I love you, Dad. I love you, Dad." That's a huge win. That's cool. Some people don't have that. Some people don't have that luxury. And so it's really about shifting the narrative and shifting your focus closer to yourself. It's not selfish at all. It's actually very important, because once you can get into your alignment, you will become a better person. You will become easier to be around. You will become all of these things. It's very, very important. I know I said I was going to play the Candace Owens thing, so I'll play it on the next thing. But this is my show. You know what? I do what I want. I do what I want. And that's the key. I do what I think is right. I do what I think is just. I talk about things that I think are important. I talk about things that I think can help people. Because ultimately, think about this. If you're living your last days, if you have 5 days to live from right now, you have 5 days to live. Okay, what are you going to be doing? You going to go to work? Nope. You might go blow all your money, go to the casino or something like that. You might do that. But what are you really going to want to do? You're going to want to share all your wisdom, everything that you've learned with your kids and your family and everybody around you, and just try to expel as much information about your journey and how you can help somebody's journey, and maybe they can learn from it. That's the fundamental core. That's why grandparents, all they want to do is just hang out with their kids and their grandkids. They want to give them the knowledge, because you can't take anything else with you. And that's the most important thing that you can spread. So anyways, there's my rant. We'll be right back. In another world, 25,000 years from now, there was a man who arose, who started the golden age, and his name was Trump. I'm just kidding. Okay, I promise I'm not breadcrumbing you in regards to all the stuff going on with Candace Owens about Israel, because I think it is very, very important. And the question is, who's controlling RFK Jr.? Because I think a peek into this, which RFK, I think, is very strong-willed. He means well. He has a great heart. He puts it all out there. He does what's right. And so a lot of independents and Democrats and even Republicans have really believed in him. But isn't this just another attack on him? Doesn't this prove that we can't just depend on one man to save the world and save the planet and save us from this misery that we're in? We can't. Because notice so much of the benefits that we're having right now and the mind shifts. and the conscious growth that's happening amongst the dinner table and what's on TV, even the narratives with the new television shows and what's becoming popular, pro-America, pro-family, pro-honor, all the Taylor Sheridan shows are amazing because he's resonating with that pulse of the fundamental core of being an American. People want that. They long for that because we've gotten so far down the rabbit hole, we've gotten so far off the trail that we've lost that. But we have to live it and exercise it every single day to do that, because we can't just depend on Trump. We can't just depend on one man, because they are simply just a man. So you have to think about that. It's very important. It's very important to recognize if we have a nation of strong leaders but weak men, we will have a dictatorship. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. If we have a nation of weak leaders but strong men, we can prop them up as a nation and push the limits of what that individual can do and not do. So this is a prime example of that. Now, I don't know how far this is going. I don't know to the depths of where this is going to lead, but this is simply a massive hit piece. Again, me being the individual, I accept people and their faults. Somebody makes one mistake, oh my gosh, it's not the end of the world. If they continually make the mistakes, if they have no regrets, if they have no perspective and feel like they're doing nothing wrong, then there's a problem. But if somebody's like, yeah, you know, I'm weak, this happened, whatever, you have to be able to give forgiveness. I think forgiveness is one of the most Christian foundations of what makes Christians so good, is we understand that men are men, people are people, and that people do fall, they make mistakes. You know, I was talking to my buddy about this the other day. I was like, you know, what'd you get done today? What do you got going on? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, I did this, I did that. And I was thinking about it, about how much we try to do during the day, but there's kind of a point, and some of you guys might know what I'm talking about. There's this point where you're still operating in a very primitive way. You like shiny wheels and cars and fast things and stuff like that. And so we're kind of like monkeys in a way, where we're just like, ooh, look at that. And so the intellectual part and the emotional part of us is trying to shift that to where we can take more control of our life and raise more awareness and be more proactive and assertive with how we talk and intentional. Speak with intention, act with intention. It's very, very important. But sometimes we just get into these more primitive things. And so that's where you fall. That's where you make mistakes. We are not robots. We are human. And humans have issues. We all do. We all have to put our pants on one leg at a time. We all need oxygen. We all need nutrients. We all need water. So let's not forget that. I'm not defending RFK. I haven't dove into this report too much because I wanted to play it on the show and kind of talk about it. But it's very, very interesting with how this is playing out. And it'll also be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple weeks. And it'll be extra interesting to see how Trump responds. So let's dive into this report. It is a little bit long, but it's talking about the Maha movement. Is it under blackmail? But Candace does a phenomenal job breaking it down. Take a listen.
You're all frauds. You are all frauds. And you're going to get exposed. I'm telling you, one by one, you're going to get exposed because you're pissing me off now, okay? I spent all of 2024 having to fight you guys. You're like disgusting little goblins. You operate all in the dark. You lie. You lie like some people breathe, genuinely. These people lie like I breathe. It's just natural. It's just like their lungs expand and a lie comes out. And there's a network of that. And Meghan McCain and Ben Dominic have been a part of that network forever. Okay. Everyone knows who these neocons are, who want to keep Americans drummed up, go to war. These people who can't fight the wars, they cry when someone points out accurately that they're clinically obese. They can't fight the wars, but your sons and daughters better fight the wars, guys. God forbid you have a person on a platform telling you, no, this is stupid. We don't need to be involved in Bibi Netanyahu's Middle East BS and expansion policies. Okay, they don't have the people, so they want you to be the people that go die for it, and they're trying to marry you to those ideas in the classroom, on podcasts, via the media, and because their relationship and your trust in the media has been fractured, they now have to work on trying to fracture your trust in people like me and Tucker Carlson. This is the new vibe. He sounds like an Iranian propagandist when he says don't die in Iran. When he says that obviously no person should send their kids to die in the Middle East because this has been our policy, our flatline policy for the last decades, and nothing good has come of it. Literally nothing good has come of it. They can't even pretend anything good has come of it. Look around, look at your streets. Look at your country. Is your country cleaner? Is your country better for having fought Israel's wars for decades? Oh, that's anti-Semitic. I know, RFK Jr. I know, RFK Jr. I hope they don't expose anything about you. All the rumors Olivia Nuzzi is circulating about you. But don't worry, she tells people that she wants to protect you. She does actually really like you and she loves you. She has a soft spot for you. She does. That's a fact. You all sicken me. I just want to say it again. You all sicken me. I'm done with the hit pieces. I'm done with you coming after my family. Leave us the F alone. Okay? Leave us alone. I don't care anymore. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to be leaving you alone. I'm done. I'm just so pissed off about it. And they always do this when I'm pregnant. They always do it when I'm pregnant. Imagine texting about that. You're a grown woman with 4 children. We need a clean shot on this 8-month pregnant woman who's waddling around because we can't find anything. Yeah, if you found anything on me, you want to know what it was? You'd find out that I didn't know the full Latin liturgy because my life is spent between church, my life is spent between mass and my children. And that's driving you crazy because you all suck. You're all disgusting. You all have no morals. That's why you're in DC posting about your shoes on a red carpet and thinking that it means something to anybody who has a shred of morality. Because that is who you guys are. That's what you believe in. That is what you worship. You worship celebrity. You worship red carpets. You worship paparazzi shots. Your life has no substance. You guys are literally, you worship Satan.
Okay, so that was, I think, the wrong clip. But basically, she's going off and she's going, if anybody knows Candace, she is very, very, very effective in her communication. She's very surgical. She's like a Laura Loomer on steroids. Very thorough. Dots her I's, cross her T's. And the fact is now that she is getting all this heat and has gotten all this heat over these past year for her just simply asking questions and her just simply going off and talking about it. Now, she did mention a little bit something about RFK, which also is implying that there's more to be had, there's more to be exposed. But what's really going on with the Maha movement and how is it going to be affected by this big controversy? Well, Alex Jones responded to it, and I want to play a quick clip. It's pretty long. He always, as you know, he always rambles. I want to play his response to the Candace Owens blackmail controversy that's going on. Take a listen.
I'm out here hiking Saturday morning, met with my buddy Sean, and we were both already on X watching Candace Owens and Ian Carroll, literally watching the same video of him talk about Candace, and we just hiked for an hour or so, and we're listening to her. And so I'm just going to respond to this. I think Candace Owens is a great person, super smart, super funny, super witty. So is Ian Carroll. And I think all the investigations they do and the things that they research are really helpful to society. And they're coming from what they do from a place of really trying to make the world a better place. And we really should have open debate about everything. That said, this whole RFK Jr. thing with, there's these women and people at events saying he's with women and this is going on. There's this writer over here that, attacked Candace Owens and, Rabbi Shmuley, who is a demon. And I don't like the fact that Kennedy sits there and says nice things about him. It's ridiculous. So you do have to ask what's going on there. But Kennedy's always supported Israel. And me personally, I don't like the whole Palestinian thing and Iran and Hezbollah, and I also don't like the stuff Israel's doing. Israel clearly stood down on October 7th. You know me, I don't think that's the biggest problem in the world. I spent some of my time on it, but millions dead in Ukraine, Europe, the UK, and France openly sending troops now to fight Russia, and Putin saying it'll be a bloodbath, we're ready for total war. That's getting about 1% of the coverage of just this total Israel obsession. So from my perspective, I'm just so sick of being on air 30 years and people always being obsessed with Israel. The Christian Zionists worship it and think it's wrong, no matter who's in charge there.
Yeah, as you know, he rambles a lot, so I can't play the full report. But the long form format, which would be in this section here, will continue on. So we're going to break into other news. I didn't have the best clips today, but, we'll get on to it.
If the road were easy, everyone would take it. We don't shy away from challenges. We dive in. And now, live from an undisclosed location in FEMA Region 10, it's your host, Joshua Michael.
All right, so again, on the position of an American, such as myself, is very simple. We should be able to ask questions. I think it's very admirable that Candace is asking questions and Ian Carroll is asking questions. Alex Jones responded. He talked about, he's like, I don't know. I don't really care about the wars. I'm not interested. I don't want to make everything about the Jews. And by all the means, my position is not it's all the Jews. That's not the issue. But it's more of a better question to ask, why is this something that can't be discussed? I think it's very important that these kinds of things get discussed, which is why we have this show, which is why we talk about these things. Tell me what you think. Write me an email, jm@noncompliantamerica, or follow me on X. You can send me a DM in there. But I want to get into some other news. I don't want to just rant and rave about this topic. Although it is a big, interesting topic, it will affect the Maha movement into the future. How we handle it, how we decide it. This is kind of the Achilles heel of the Republican Party. This creates the infighting that they want. They tried to do black people versus white people. Didn't work. Then they do class, rich people versus poor people. That doesn't work. It's the great game. It's the same thing, and this is just a hybrid version of that to get all the infighting, because everybody's got an opinion. It's kind of like you talk about with everybody that's read the Bible with different perspectives of what the Bible's interpreting. You got, this didn't happen. This is how it was. I know because I've read it and this and that. Well, I've read this part and this is that. And you get into these debates that essentially go nowhere. They're good to have, but essentially it's just a bridge to nowhere. It's to create chaos. And that's the devil's greatest work, is the ability to create chaos. Distort communities, distort perspectives, distort reality, lie, cheat, steal, all these things. So we got to be aware of that. But I think it's important that we do have these conversations, and that these conversations are being had in the public forum, in the public space on X. Very important. And I'm always talking about X because I think X is key. Now, there's some controversy going on. X was supposedly sold by Elon Musk a couple days ago. We'll talk about that as that transpires, as we know a little bit more. The one thing I do want to talk about is the economy, because I'm always hammering gold and silver and Bitcoin and what it all means and stuff like that. But this is an interesting article that just came out this morning talking about how governments are now selling off their Bitcoin to buy gold. Now, if you look, gold is skyrocketing right now. A lot of projections are it's going to hit 4,000 by the end of the year, which is crazy. Huge gains with gold. Silver, same thing. Gold's almost at 3,100. Silver right now is at 34.38. It's gone down about 29 cents, but it's been lingering these past couple days over $34, which is huge. That's projected to be $45 to $50 by the end of 2025. Great investment if you have some extra cash or savings. I personally believe, that this is just my opinion, that Bitcoin is great. These cryptocurrencies are great in some ways, but they're not tangible. They are absolutely dependent on the power grid. They're dependent on the internet and the transfer of things. Yeah, you can print your wallet out and this and that. Now we have Starlink, which is a counter to internet outages and different things. So yeah, there are kind of factors in it, but essentially it's just a number listed on there. But more importantly, it directly correlates into a future control grid. I was watching a documentary that I haven't seen for a very long time called Zeitgeist Addendum. I will post a link in my podcast so you guys can watch it. Now, the whole second section is something called the Venus Project. If you look at the Venus Project and how it correlates with Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2045, and Agenda 2050, in where the globalist nations and the technocratic dictatorships are trying to take us. If you watch that, which that guy was a futurist from the 1960s, talking about these 5-minute cities and 15-minute cities, and nobody will own anything because nobody will need to own anything. So his example was, if you go to a golf course, you will have perfectly made golf clubs that you just use, but then that way you didn't have to have a car and bring your clubs and purchase them and do that. They would just be available in this open society. And they talk about different ways of harnessing energy, how they could power the entire global grid, and just all this stuff. It sounds great. It sounds great. But as we know, like we saw in the Biden administration, in the Biden administration, how quickly that stuff can be turned against us, how it can be manipulated, which is the whole premise of the American system, is checks and balances. We have to remember that no matter who is in charge, they are human. And there's tendencies for power and control and greed and siphoning things off to your family and doing this and setting up other organizations and deals and everything else. And now suddenly the public is disconnected from the government. And we've seen that, and we're in that. That's the exact state that we are in currently, which we're trying to defend. So with that, I do think that there's downfalls with cryptocurrencies. I think it's a lure. Imagine right now if Bitcoin dropped down to $10. Think of the panic and the billionaires and the people that have so much propped up and invested into this, how quickly it would fall. Vice versa, think if the stock market crashed too. And that dropped exponentially, and we're back to 2008 to a massive crash, which is happening. It's 100 times bigger. It's more sophisticated. They rebranded it, repackaged it, but they're still doing the same thing. And so I believe, this is just my opinion, and apparently other governments and countries are vibing with the same belief, is that this stuff, this digital everything, is so propped up that all it takes is a supercomputer, major power outage, something of that sort, to completely and absolutely disrupt the entire financial system, which is why they're buying gold and silver. Silver's extremely undervalued because it's used for manufacturing, and there's a massive amount of silver-based technologies that are going to be used in manufacturing over the next couple of years. The receipts have already been written. The invoices have already been made up, and it's bigger than the current silver mining supply. So supply and demand, it's going to go up. So it's going to have value. You're always going to be able to sell it to a manufacturer of some sort. Okay, I'm digressing. I want to get into this article because I think it's important. This show has just scooted by really fast. So Bitcoiners are hoping that the Trump administration will pump their bags to the all-time high with this Bitcoin strategic reserve. However, Bitcoiners also claim that it doesn't need the state to endorse it, yet they cheer for any policy or candidate that promises any further or legitimate their so-called punk freedom money. This is essentially what it's being sold as. But over the past decade, the federal government sold approximately 195,000 Bitcoins for proceeds of $366 million. If the government had held that Bitcoin, it would be worth over $17 billion today. That's how much it has cost American taxpayers to not have that long. That's David Sachs talking about it. Many Bitcoiners say they don't trust the state, but at the same time, they're trusting the state to securely and custody these private keys. So as these governments maintain more ownership of the Bitcoin, they will be able to shift the markets around more, which is against the entire premise of what Bitcoin is supposed to be. The main buyers of gold are still the central banks. The central banks, like the People's Bank of China, underreporting the obscurity with their purchases. Whatever reported numbers at any given time is generally a lowball estimate. And along with the governments in Germany and beyond the trends are selling their Bitcoin, and they can't buy more. They're not buying more. They're buying gold. That's all for today. Thank you guys very much for listening today. I'm Joshua Michael, Noncompliant America. Check out noncompliantamerica.com.